Hello, everybody. This is the Conversations with God. Get my face in there. Conversations with God, Book 4 by Neil Donald Walsh, Awaken the Species. And we think, though we're not positive, we think we're going to be finishing this today. And then next week, we'll start Friendship with God, and we'll just take it from there.
Yay.
Yay.
I got mine too.
So, anyway, last week we talked, or the week before, we were talking about something Angela had brought up that, would she be scared if somebody walked up to her with a gun? And then I can't remember what week, but I told this story that was recorded about me being an eyewitness to a suicide to a gentleman who was pointing guns at everybody and ended up shooting himself. And after that recording, Kirsten mentioned that it really had an impact on her. So, Kirsten, do you want to take it away?
Sure. I had an incident. I tried to, the day I died, I tried to unsuccessfully, thank God, kill myself. On June 30th, 2013. I was living in my mother's house at the time, and she died in 15. So that's the 2015 in March, at the end of March. So June 30th, it was 6 o'clock. My mother found me in my bedroom. I had taken pills the night prior, and this was 6 o'clock. So I'm pretty sure I took those pills, as I remember, pills and alcohol. As I remember, like when she went to bed, and she went to bed early because she goes upstairs and reads. So she reads like books, all books. So she would go to bed like at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock. So shortly after that, I took a whole bunch of pills. And she didn't find me until she went to go to the bathroom, because my room was right by the bathroom, until 6 in the morning, and my door was shut. And she told me later afterwards, she said, I knew something was wrong when your door was shut, because you have a dog and you don't do that. You want the dog to go on the couch and go in the living room and get her stuff, and then come back into the bed, and you never shut it. So I knew that something was wrong. So I went right in there. Rescue came, and it was foggy that day, all fog. So I was helicoptered to Dartmouth Hitchcock over in Hanover, New Hampshire. They did resuscitation at the house. They left all the, EMTs left everything there. My mother said her house was full of people. She said there must have been 12 or 15 people in the house, Kirsten. Trying to revive me. They couldn't do it. I don't know if they, was thready pulse. I think I had just barely alive, So these are not coincidences, as we know. We don't believe in coincidences. They called, the ER. They said patient's coming, Kirsten's coming, but it's foggy. There's not conditions. So they're phone calling all over the place. And here in Brattleboro, I had to come to here in Brattleboro, so I got helicoptered from Townsend, not too far away, 17 miles away, to here, to Brattleboro, to the roof of BMH, Brattleboro Memorial Hospital. And I was unconscious this whole time. And I was unconscious for 4 days after this. So guess who was on call? Guess who? He wasn't even on call. He was my doctor. He happened to be there in the ER. I mean, not in the ER, in the emergency room. He was on duty on June 30th, 2013. There's no way I could have known that. And he was covering the emergency room that day and that night. It was his shift to do it. He works and lives in Townsend, so he commuted down here, but he was already here. So it was great. My personal doctor for 20 years, he's my doctor for 20 years, still is, was there. He said, oh, Kirsten, and they're making phone calls and whatever. So I didn't find this out until later. So then they did stuff at BMH here, and they still couldn't. It was still threatening. They had to find a bed. So they called my doctor, and everyone else called, the secretaries and everyone else called every bed in Vermont. For someone that does this, has to be, a psychiatric bed, obviously. There's a mental hospital here that didn't have anything. The one in Burlington, which is a really big hospital, didn't have any beds in Vermont. And it was foggy. And so they didn't want to go up on a helicopter again. So I took an ambulance to Albany, New York. That was the closest hospital and closest bed they could find, which is, a couple hours away. But they didn't use the helicopter, which is what they would normally do. The dart copter goes all over the place. It's a dart, emergency dart copter they use for like military and stuff. So it was an ambulance ride. That was pretty long, I would assume. They're calling all over. My mother was calling. My boyfriend at the time was calling. They're trying to track us down. They wanted to follow. Otto went and got my mother's house, and they followed me down, but they lost us. So they got lost. They did end up there, and then the two of them, they left. And it was just, it was a day of infamy for me that I like to forget. But I don't know if my mind will let me forget that, because I think God or myself or everyone else wants that to be a constant reminder to other people and myself that is just not the right thing to do, and it's really awful. It damages my family. It damages all my relationships. You don't have any friends when you do something like that. You have no friends. That's it. And my family wouldn't really talk to me that much because, they don't want to say your daughter, committed suicide. So it was 4 days later, and I woke up, and the first thing I remember when I said was, I'm still alive, laying in bed. And I said, what the am I? And then the nurse, obviously came over because, I came to. This was 4 days later, though. This wasn't immediate. So I was in a 4-day drug-induced coma. And I said, see, I can't even kill myself right. I mean, that's the first words out of my mouth, where I'm so depressed. I'm so effed up. I can't even do this correctly as well. So it's just like, but since then, I've done so much, healing and so forth, and so for them. But I never took my mother into consideration during all this because we had a tumultuous relationship, and I didn't consider her until Nanette told her story, and I know she's a mother, so it dawned on me just last week, and she's been dead for 3 years now. That I was so angry at her, and I was so angry anyway at everything, that I was angry at my disabilities. I have a lot of problems and learning disabilities, and I was so frustrated my whole life with all that stuff. And I just never considered her feelings. How does she feel? Her daughter did this in her house, and we didn't talk about it that much because my mom doesn't, we don't cry together and that kind of stuff. My family doesn't cry. Both sides of my family don't. And you don't show weakness, all that stuff. So we didn't talk about it. My mother did the silent treatment. She said, I'm not going to talk about this. You need to clean up all this stuff. I know she took me back and we went to my room. She had left that shut, and I had a dog. And she said, your dog was howling for you, howling when I was away at the hospital. I was away for a good month or more trying to remember stuff. And the heart doctor came and he scanned my heart. He scanned my brain. I had brain scans. I had everything to make sure. I did have memory loss, but, short-term memory loss. But I did gain most of it back. But it's short-term now. Like I can put something over here and then forget that I just did that. It's very short-term. But the longer stuff, I can sort of remember some things. Some of it was foggy, though, for a good while. It was foggy. But I have so much gratitude now for living through that and experiencing that and having all these, God just wouldn't let me die. There was so many opportunities. There was fog, there was this, there was that. I took an ambulance to Albany instead of a helicopter. That delayed things to get me help. They were doing all they could on the helicopter and the ambulance, but, you can't do much when somebody's, gone, they're gone. And my mother did remind me, you could have been a vegetable, and I would have to make a call for that. And this is a call I don't want to make as a mother, to pull the plug. I don't want to make that call. And I'm glad I didn't. And she said to me right in my bedroom when all that stuff was on the floor, all the life-saving stuff that she made me, she said, this is what you put me through. Now pick all this up now. And I did what she said. But I was so shocked that she would do that. But she, thinking about it, she did the right thing. She did a tough love thing. That's the thing. That's what I needed to hear. You put me through this as a mother. I only have one child, and it's you. And you're lucky you lived. She just would yell, you're lucky you lived, and this is not going to be fun living here, so you might want to move. So I did shortly afterwards because it was hell, but now I can see her side of it, and I can understand now. I just totally blanked on her, how she felt as a mother. And, I just didn't deal with it until recently. So I want to thank you again, Annette, for that. Was very wonderful that I was able to see that, and hopefully that I can get past this and beyond it. Thank you.
You're welcome. And I just want to add that it's something I think we learn to live with. I don't think we ever get over.
No. But that's what they say in therapy. Yeah, that's what my therapist says. I'm in therapy for all this.
Yep. Well, thank you for sharing that. And
yes, thank you.
It's one of the nice things about this group is that we do have space to. My cat's trying to get under the door. It's not going to work. But it gives us space
for personal stories. Yeah.
Yeah, to share and from the things that we've read in the book.
Right.
So thank you for sharing that, Kirsten.
Thank you. Kirsten. Isn't your neighbor friend is Kirsten?
I've got a Kirsten, right? A Kristen,
Oh.
Yeah. But anyway, so we are on, unless somebody else wanted to comment to what Kirsten just said, we'll go ahead and get started.
I'm glad she shared that, and I'm glad it got on recording, because sometimes we learn, most of the time, we learn through other people's stories and sharing.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
And I'm sure your sharing is going to give insight to other people.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you for doing that.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm very grateful for what you shared. Thank you. I'm so happy that you're alive.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Shivana.
Amen. Okay, so were we at the beginning of the epilogue, or we have to? Okay. Well, I don't think I said who I am, Nanette Kennedy, but most of you already know that. With Humanities Team and Evolution Revolution. And Linda, why don't you take it away? It's page 239 in my book.
Okay, good. That wasn't too long.
This is the epilogue from Conversations with God, Book 4, Awaken the Species. Neil is speaking. My dear, dear companions on this journey. This is not easy, is it? I mean, this journey through life. For most of us, this is not easy. It involves sadness and tragedy and way too many moments. Happiness too, yes, and moments of joy for sure. But the heaviness of the heart and the ache of its breaking over and over again can take its toll. That's undeniable. Even the optimist feels it in some mornings upon rising and some evenings when the weight of events and memories of events is carried to bed. For 50 years, I've kept telling myself, there's got to be a reason. There's got to be a purpose. This has all got to be a part of a larger process in which we're all engaged here. Life must be more than a series of random events to which we're all subjected, with the final bell ringing at a time or in a way that we least expect. The conversations with God that I've had since I've slipped past my 49th birthday, now 24 years ago, have convinced me that this is true. And this latest dialogue, totally unexpected and packed with surprises, has confirmed everything for me. But please, listen to me as I wave goodbye. I could be wrong about all of this. Don't imagine for a second that I don't think about that. I think about it all the time. Several interviewers have asked me basically the same question. Do you have any doubts about the experience I've had? Do I have any doubts about the experience I've had or the imagination, the information I've received? And I've given them all the same answer. The day I stop doubting is the day I become dangerous. and I have no intention of becoming dangerous. So I want to tell you to doubt as well. I'm sure I don't have to encourage this. I want you to be clear that one of the most important messages of the Conversations with God dialogues is to not believe them. Indeed, in the very first book of the 9 texts, we hear this voice of God. Believe nothing, I say, simply live it, experience it, then live whatever other paradigm you want to construct. Afterward, look at your experience to find your truth. We do well to remain in our own authority in all matters regarding the self and the soul. No one can tell us what is true for us, and no one should try. That said, I became very clear on what is true for me when I read the recommendations and the suggestions on how I might live my own life found in the Conversations with God dialogue. And I couldn't help but think, I wish someone had told me these things 50 years ago. I can't imagine a better way to live. Yet I am very much aware that not everyone will agree. Not everyone will resonate with what has been written here. Some may consider it bizarre and outlandish. Others will say it far worse than that, labeling it blasphemous and heretical. I want you to know that I sincerely respect and honor their point of view, and all points of view sincerely arrived at, honestly held, and expressed without violence. This is a powerful subject we're talking about here, and it is good to proceed with care. All of it is wrapped up in our relationship with the divine, indeed the question of whether there even is a God, and that is not a small matter. Our understanding of all of this is significant because most human beings need and seek, and sooner or later deeply yearn to find some kind of meaning in life. Without that meaning, without some purpose for it all, many of us soon find ourselves simply trudging along with that heaviness of heart I spoke of earlier. We'll move through life trying to make the best of something we haven't even begun to understand, pushing through our days and nights engaged in increasingly aimless, valueless, senseless activities that clarify nothing, that produce little, and that generate not much more than more things to do while we're on our way to where we don't know, but an eventual end that we call death, the anticipation of which others not but a heightened sense of what feels like almost bitterly laughable fruitlessness of it all. And so we yearn and we search. Giving all this deeper thought as I write these words, I arrive at a place of knowing that if we hold the notion that there is some sort of higher power in existence, our reaching clarity may very well be guaranteed. Seek and ye shall find, God has said to all of us. Knock and it shall be opened unto you. We may very well remember through our own communion with the divine that there is something greater going on here. Information may come our way that will make the largeness of it all that is, and all that occurs suddenly apparent. Indeed, the book you're reading could now be a part of that very process playing out right now. I do not believe that your interaction with the divine was ever intended to be a one-way encounter. I believe it was intended to provide you with comfort and produce for you a goal worthy of your dedication, of your commitment, of your time and effort. And so I encourage you to engage in your own conversation with God every day, in whatever way feels natural and good to you, based on your tradition or your innermost feeling. Call it prayer, call it meditation, call it inspiration, call it whatever you wish. And if my exchange with God here leads you to your own, my publishing it will have succeeded in its goal. If you're in harmony with the Conversations with God material, you will find in this present text all that you need in order to move the CWG messages more fully into your life. Simply embrace and apply the 16 items describing the differences between humans and highly evolved beings. Use regularly the 7 tools explored in this portion of this dialogue dealing with immigration, and repeat the everyday behaviors that you have already shown yourself to be perfectly capable of demonstrating. And then don't be surprised if your life changes right before your eyes. Now let me share with you some final thoughts written and added to this book several weeks after the writing of the main text was complete. On November 1st, 2016, I underwent surprise open heart surgery, a quintuple bypass. I did not know I needed it until an angiogram a few days earlier confirmed my suspicion that something was going on with my old ticker. I just wasn't feeling right, and I thought I'd better get myself checked out. That decision saved my life. It turns out that 5 arteries to my heart were blocked, one of them at 98%. I'm sharing this very personal reason, not to get your sympathy, but to get your attention. This life we're living, this life through which you and I are walking hand in hand, will not go on forever, not in its present form. Our existence is eternal, but our lives, in any particular form, are not. This has been brought home to me in a powerful, powerful way. There's nothing like getting your chest sawed open, your heart stopped, body put on a machine to do its blood circulating and breathing for 3 hours, and chest then wired shut and zipped up again to make this begin. You are not your body. Your body is something you have, not something you are. Who you are is eternal. What you have is not. The American poet M. Clare, who I am joyously happy to say happens to be my beloved wife, captured this reality perfectly in her poem, Precious Occurrence. I am a precious occurrence, and I don't have long. We are a precious occurrence, and as long as we think we have, we don't have long. Too much time is spent running from face to face, asking, what is my name? If you don't know it yet, or you've forgotten, then become still, go within, and answer it. You are a precious occurrence. Tell us your name. The experience of my open heart surgery made me think long and hard, and not for a moment or two, but from the day after the operation to this writing. What do I want to do with whatever time my present body has left? For that matter, what do we all want to do? That is, why did we come here? What, at the end of our current physicalization, will really matter? Have we come here to get the guy, get the girl, get the car, get the job, get the spouse, get the kids, get the house, get the better job, get the better car, get the better house, get the grandkids, get some name on business or on an office door, get the retirement watch, get the cruise tickets, get the illness, get the hell out? Is that really our life's formula? Is there nothing more to be done? Was there ever anything more to be done? Then I pondered this business of awakening. Is there really any such thing? Are we making this whole idea up just to give us something to do other than the mundane, other than the simply surviving? And then I said to myself, wait a minute. You were just given a book by God. What is its most important message? Maybe you might pay attention to that. So I reread this book from first page to last. And I decided that this was its single most important message. You're already awake. You simply do not know it. I see this as my opportunity now, my moment not to seek to be awakened, but to commit to behaving in a way that reflects that I already am, with every thought, with every word, with every gesture, action, choice, or decision from this moment forward. I have self-selected. And I find myself wishing to invite you to do the same. Now is the perfect time for our advancement as individuals and as a species. And this doesn't have to be a drudgery or a burden. It can be a joy. Expressing the highest and the grandest part of us every day will feel wonderful. All we have to do is get our fear and negativity out of the way. Let's try it. Just for a week. No, just for a day. Let's watch what we think. Watch what we say. Count the times our thought and words about anything are negative. Count the times that they add positive energy and good vibes to the moment, or deplete the moment. Then let's accept the invitation of divinity and say this to ourselves in front of every encounter, every interaction, every anticipated experience with another. I have come that you may have life and that you may have it more abundantly. Let's allow this to form the context of all our intellectual, emotional, and physical expressions from morning till night. If you'd like to join me in this next and perhaps most important and exciting leg on our evolutionary journey, you will find resources to assist you at www.ihaveselfselected.com. I created these to help myself, comprised in the main of gathered messages and from Conversations with God dialogues, which have changed my life and which promise more and the biggest changes yet to come. Do you think we can make these changes? Do you think the world we touch would be better if we did? But here's the real question. Why bother? This is not easy work. Setting aside centuries, no millennia of human proclivities, penchants, predilections, propensities, is not something one does overnight. It requires thinking in a new way, understanding life in a new way, speaking to others in a new way, showing up in the world in a new way. Why go to all the trouble? Why not just get the guy, get the girl, get the car, get the job, get the spouse, get the house, get the kids, and get on with life that has no larger purpose beyond that? Because we came here to do more than this. We did not come here to play the one with the most toys wins. We did not come here to squeak by, slipping from birth to death, hoping for not much more than to sustain the least amount of damage and create the highest level of whatever we define as happiness and success. Do you really think this was meant to be the sum total of our earthly experience? That's another reason to bother as well, because our world, the one you wish to leave your children and your grandchildren, cannot continue to exist as it has. It will simply not be sustainable. If get the guy, get the girl, get the car, get the job is all that humans continue to do. It is time for our species to awaken, to advance, to become aware of who we are and why we are here and the purpose of all life. Is that purpose of existence to just exist? Surely not. Surely there must be more to it than this. And there is. The books in Conversations with God series make this very clear. And that is why I use them as a resource every day of my life. I hope you will do so as well. Read them, all of them. Not because I think you'll find the answer to the life's biggest mystery there, but because I believe you can find the way to your own answer there. You will either agree or disagree with what is offered in these texts, but either way, you'll have moved closer to your own innermost truth. Then you can more fully live it, and then you will awaken the species. For the one who lives the highest and grandest innermost truth about oneself and the purpose of life cannot help but touch others in a way that gives them back to themselves, arousing them from their own slumber of forgetfulness by mirroring for them their own highest hopes and grandest thoughts. This is our invitation. This is our opportunity. This is the next step in our own evolution. And taking this next step is the purpose of all life. For the soul expresses life through advancement, 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 expansion, 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 becoming, 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 eternally and everlasting, and even forevermore. This is the delight of God, embodied in everything. I invite you to let this be your delight as well. With my love, Neale Donald Walsch, Ashland, Oregon, November 22nd, 2016. P.S. If you find yourself energized by the third invitation as brought to us in this dialogue, I encourage you to notice that there are many organizations and movements around the world inviting your support in helping to awaken our species. One such organization has arisen directly out of the messages of Conversations with God. It's Humanity's Team, humanitesteam.org. And its purpose is to send the message of oneness around the world, bringing an end to separation at last. Hang on, I just have to cough. Another is the Conversations with God Foundation, CWG.org, which works to send the messages of CWG dialogues into the world. And if you wish to review and study further the contents of those 9 dialogues, and perhaps even participate in an advanced integration program of exploration and application of its messages, you may do so at www.cwg-connect.com. which I trust will continue to be a resource long after I have celebrated my continuation day. Finally, I cannot end this closing note without sharing my deepest gratitude for my wife, Em, who has been my strength in times of doubt, my clarity in times of confusion, and my soul's "I understand you completely and love you without condition" companion. Whenever she saw me in even the slightest trace of a momentary temptation to imagine that I was all alone on this journey. Finally felt othered in this life. I knew it was possible. I just knew it. But yes, I experienced it as being extremely rare. My greatest happiness is that I can tell you with absolute assurance that God's way of loving is expressible by human beings here on earth. My dearest Em is walking evidence of that. Em's poetic expressions have inspired me over and over again, and so I wish to close with one more of them here, that you too may be uplifted. As I move back into the contemplation of the God of my understanding, to which this new dialogue invites me, I find myself wanting to pose before the world the intriguing, spiritually important inquiry that Em's poem from her published work, Home Remains Me, places before us here. I can think of no better way to conclude this last conversation with God. I don't know if my God is the same as your God. Is it made of love? Does it want for you what you want for you? Does it come to you with arms opened, asking nothing but ready for anything? Does it whisper to you of light and of stillness and point you toward any of the paths that will take you there? Does it remind you of your seeing? Does it remind you of your knowing? Does it remind you of the gentlest lover you've ever dreamed, soothing you all the way down the length of your body to caress a weariness from your heart? Is it ever late? Is it ever gone? Is it made of love? And then there is the addendum. I don't know if you want to muddle through the addendum. It's awfully long and it's got lots of questions and answers. I'm not sure how to do that. You're on mute.
I thought I took myself off mute.
Yeah.
I think we're good. I think we should just leave it as it is.
I agree.
Because we've actually read stuff like this before from other books that we've read. And I don't think it's going to be that different. Whoa. Nice reading. And that was a really powerful epilogue. Anybody have a comment?
Well, I just got to say that I think I put this on Facebook. I'm really feeling this moon energy, this super eclipse blue moon thing that's coming up on Monday. And I think I'm very just emotional. So it was influencing
Wednesday, that it's coming up, the full moon on Wednesday, the last day of January.
I think, no, it's Tuesday.
Yeah.
We're close. We're in the effects of it. For sure. January 30th is the full moon. From Cancer to Leo.
And since it gets dark earlier, I perhaps will be up to see it.
We won't be able to see it in North America, but we'll still be bathed in the energies. But I've been busy all week cleaning all my crystals and getting them all cleaned and ready to place around my house and my property.
I am proud of you, Christine. I've been busy. As you might be able to tell, my Christmas tree is still behind me.
I know, but you like to leave it up till February, and that's okay.
Well, but I've been undecorating it, so it's now just a tree. It's a Christmas tree without any ornaments, but all the ornaments are strewn about my living room. Anyway, you don't want to hear about my housekeeping.
My next door neighbor, Estelita, she starts decorating 2 trees in September. And they're probably still up in her house. She just loves Christmas.
Yep. I used to leave mine up so late that it was almost Easter. And but then it was like when we were talking about leaving sticky notes around that have messages on them. I don't appreciate the Christmas tree as much because it's a regular piece of furniture,
right,
as it were. I don't mind leaving it up usually till Valentine's Day, but this year with the kitten that we have in the house, every ornament was on the floor, so it was like, I'm over it. So I might have to go find a couple of my crystals, polish them up, and see what happens.
Salt, I clean mine in sea salt and water, and then after they're all clean for a couple of days, then I rinse them off and put them in the sunshine. Although we're not getting much sunshine in Victoria, but.
Well, this is kind of off topic, but you and Linda were closer to us, or closer than we are, to the earthquake that happened. Did you guys feel any of that?
I personally didn't, but over on Tofino, on the west coast of the island, they do get tsunamis there. So yeah, but here in Victoria, no, I didn't feel anything. But in Victoria, we get several hundred earthquakes a year, but they're just usually little ones, right? We get a lot of them.
You, Linda?
Oh, hell yeah. We had to evacuate. I mean, there was a prediction of a 36-foot wave coming straight up the bay. The epicenter of the earthquake, if you look at a map and you look at Resurrection Bay and you draw a line straight south into the Gulf of Alaska, and go down to about being next to the island of Kodiak, it was right there. So if a wave had been generated, there was the potential for it to come straight up Resurrection Bay. It would have wiped out Lowell Point. It would have wiped out the building I'm sitting in right now. I had just gotten up to go to the bathroom. It was around 12:30, and I came back to bed and I laid down. And all of a sudden, I kid you not, I thought my husband was having some kind of a stroke or seizure, because the bed started shaking. And I sat up and looked at him, and he wasn't moving at all on his own, so I woke him. I said, yo. And he got up. The second he realized what was happening, he immediately knew, and he started getting dressed. One of the most powerful things about that event, though, was that it went on for 48 seconds. I've never lived through an earthquake that went on for so long. And the cells in our body start to freak out. We talk about animals know stuff. The cells in our bodies start to freak out when you've been shaking for that long, because you really have no context for, okay, when is it going to stop then? 48 seconds is a long time to be doing this, And he managed to get downstairs, and I waited till it stopped. And then, he was already running around getting the ditty bag and got the radios on. And then the sirens went off. And then it was a full-blown tsunami evacuation. And because Seward was destroyed in the 64 quake, we are what we call a tsunami-ready community. So there are signs everywhere telling where to go, and everybody knows what to do. So it happened at 12:30. The first projected wave was going to hit at 1:55. So we had plenty of time. So we all, depending on who you were and what you wanted to do, there were several places you could go. We went north. If we'd only had a short window of time, we would have gone to there's a state park here with an upper parking lot that is above. They said we had to get to 52 feet in elevation, and I'm at the ocean. I'm on the ocean. So we would have gone up that hill, and we would have been in that parking lot. If a wave had come, we would have been stranded on that hill. There would have been no coming back down off that hill. So we opted to go out the road to friends that were like 6 miles inland. But they're in a river basin, so chances are they may have flooded if a real wave had actually come. If a 36-foot wave had actually come, no wave ended up even getting generated. But there were several hours of a lot of confusion and chaos. But in terms of what was happening with the waves, because the tide was going out, and so when a tsunami comes, the first thing that happens is the water goes out before it comes back in, and so people saw the water going out, and they misread that and thought that was a sign. So there was a lot of misinformation and chaos at the what's really happening level. But in terms of the people, everybody did exactly what they needed to do. They had the whole waterfront, all the apartments downtown were evacuated. All the elderly and the infirm and the people that couldn't go on their own, that had all been moved up to the high school or up to the senior center out of the inundation area. And then when they finally gave the final all clear was around 4 a.m. And then, so my husband left, we took both rigs, and my husband left just like 2 minutes before the all clear, because we'd been listening and we knew they were getting ready to give the all clear. He jumped in his car and he took off. By the time I got to the highway, I had to sit there, zoom, 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 all the people coming down off the mountain, And then you get to town and all the people coming out of the high school, down off the hill from the high school. But it was a great drill. The thing that is especially interesting about that event to me, and I'll share it, and this is getting recorded, so I'm going to share some really kind of crazy thoughts here.
Yeah.
But there are no coincidences. And so I really believe there is a connection between these events. When I was in Portland last weekend, I met with a woman who is a land healer. And she works with entities like Archangel Michael and Saint Germain and other entities healing land. And long story short, she ended up doing a ritual, a land healing ritual for the town of Seward, because Seward, as I think I've mentioned occasionally, Seward is a little town having a whole lot of problems. It's like, you want to talk about people who are asleep and being forced to wake up. This little tiny town is a microcosm of what we see at a national level. And it's in a lot of pain right now. And there is a lot of darkness. There's a lot of hate being generated. There's a lot of, so I went out on a limb and I asked this woman if she'd be willing to do this little ritual, and she did it. And she did it on Sunday. They had a council meeting on Monday that was like one of the, perhaps the worst council meetings they've ever had. One guy came in and was like screaming at a couple of the council women and making all kinds of wild accusations, name calling, craziness. And then that earthquake happened. And the earthquake happened in such a place that it could actually generate a tsunami right up the bay. If it had been off just a couple of miles to the left or the right, you wouldn't be able to say that, but it was right in a line. I don't know, but it's like there's energetically, I feel like this whole world is just like, we're cracking open and everybody's got goo on their shoes. And we're having to figure out, okay, do I want this goo on my shoe, or do I want to really like move into a new way of being? And that's what's happening. And I really feel like that earthquake was connected to all of that.
I do too. I mean,
that was a long answer to your question, but
no, I do too, and it is compelling. And I think, because I've only experienced one earthquake in my life, and I was out in my car in the driveway, not here in Colorado, it was in Oklahoma. I was visiting my brother. And my sister and I are both in the car, and all of a sudden it felt like my car was going like this. And I was like, looked at my sister and I went, what the heck was that? And it lasted about 10 seconds. Right. And that 10 seconds seemed like a long time. So I cannot imagine what 48 seconds felt like. I'm glad you're okay.
Yeah,
and the strange thing was that I was in the UK because of the time zone. I just saw it on the news. I got up early, I saw it, and I think I emailed Linda and said, "Are you okay?" But I thought she's not going to get it, and I asked all the people that I knew, like, we got to pray, we got to send affirmations. This is just like not real and everything. And I never look at the news very much in the morning, but I just saw it just at that moment. Just amazing.
Yeah.
And I saw your Facebook post and was really grateful. And it made the front page of the paper here in Victoria.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well,
there was There was an article that talked about the difference and why no tsunami was generated. And I don't remember the two kinds of quakes, but basically this one was more of a sort of, you know, a letting loose as opposed to a, you know, something significant and sharp. There was no like big crack like this and come back, none of that kind of stuff that happens, which is what will generate tsunamis. So, but then right afterwards, there was a volcano in Japan and then a volcano in the Philippines later that day. And I guess there was a big article about that whole ring of fire. Like the whole thing was lit up for a while. Monday, Tuesday.
The living earth.
Yeah.
Well, so everybody gets your Friendship with God book next week. And thank you, everybody, for sharing. That was actually quite interesting about the earthquake.
Nanette,
Yes?
what year was that Friendship with God published? I think I might have.
I've got one right here.
99,
I have mine right here.
1999.
1999? Okay. I
That's
think
my
I might have
first.
that one already.
Yeah.
Yep, I do, but like I said, I reached up on my dusty top shelf and it's like I got everything else up there.
You must have loaned it out.
There's one other possibility, but I will check into that one other possibility. And if I don't have it, I'm going to have to order it, which is fine. You know.
Can you get it that quick?
Oh yeah. If Amazon is so fast, it's not even funny.
Amazon took forever for me to get this, though.
Seriously?
It was like a week and a half. Yeah. To Vermont.
Well, we'll see. I may not have a book next week. But usually they're pretty darn fast.
Yeah, usually they are. It was.
So I gotta say, different wife though, right?
What?
Didn't he have a different wife for this book?
Yes.
Yes.
He has a different wife for this book, right?
He's had several different wives for
Yes, he has.
different books. You know,
I'm just joking.
well, I know, but there is some truth to that. But he says he's not perfect, you know. So
Right.
none of us are.
None of us are.
Yeah.
Well, and the Course in Miracles says that a lot of people that, you know, form a bond, it's for the time being, but it's not a permanent bond. So.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. There was I don't know what movie this was in. It was a while ago. It was probably in the 80s. But this couple changed their wedding vows to say, I commit to being married to you until I don't love you anymore.
Well, that's a good vow.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
You know, so long as we shall both get along or something, you know, whatever. It was very, very funny. And I remember just
Wow.
really laughing. Okay. Well, I'll get busy on does anybody have any final thoughts? Like, Shabana, are you back with us or?
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I'm back finally.
there's-
Thank you.
Okay.
Do you want to do a
Powerful-
meditation?
Yeah, do you want to
Pardon?
do a 2-minute
Oh, yeah,
meditation?
meditation.
Oh, absolutely.
Yes.
Go
God
for it.
of mercy, we love you. We open our hearts to receive the blessings that Neil has conveyed to us. Amen.
Thank you, Shabana. It's always kind of sad when we finish a book, you know?
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. True that.
Alrighty. Enjoy the full moon.
Thank you.
Be earthquake free.
Yes.
tsunami free, volcano free, and all those other things. And we'll see everybody next week.
Next week.
Sounds
Thank you,
good.
everyone. Thanks,
Love
Linda.
you, everybody.
Yeah.
Love you.
Bye.
Love you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.